At 22 hours GMT, welcome to the Newsroom. I'm Danny Cox. The report into the interrogation methods used by the CIA is released, branding them brutal and ineffective.
The CIA's actions a decade ago are a stain on our value and on our history.
The last remaining French hostage held abroad is freed. In Zimbabwe, President Robert Mugabe has fired his longtime deputy Joyce Majuru.
Live around the world, this is the BBC's Outside Source.
Russia's President Putin has delivered his annual State of the Nation speech. In it, he said he was certain that if the events in Ukraine hadn't happened, the West would have come up with another excuse to restrain Russia. Coming up, it's the spacecraft that one day will carry humans to Mars. In about an hour, it makes its maiden test voyage. We'll cross live to Cape Canaveral and get the latest on one of the most important space missions since the Apollo days. And the title of the next James Bond film has just been announced. It's Spectre.
It's all after the BBC News with Danny Cox.
There have been mixed reactions in Egypt after a court in Cairo dropped all charges against the former president Hosni Mubarak in a retrial over the killing of hundreds of protesters during the 2011 uprising. Now, with the number of new Ebola cases rising in Sierra Leone, there are fears that the country is lagging behind the rest of West Africa in the fight against the virus. Hopes had been pinned on a British intervention to regain control of the situation, but there's been much criticism of late that the newly built British-funded Ebola clinic in Kerrytown is operating far below capacity, while another nearby hospital is reportedly turning victims away. Well, the centre has allowed rare access to a BBC team, including our Sierra Leone reporter Umaru Fafana, who joins us from there now. Tell us more about this centre.
Well, it's a very beautiful centre, well built by British Royal Engineers.
That report from Nick Bryant in New York.
This is Outside Source, real-time news every weekday from the BBC.
Now, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has been spelling out plans to bolster the country's flagging economy. Things haven't been going very well recently, what with oil prices falling and Russia being hit by Western sanctions because of its intervention in Ukraine. Well, President Putin said events there were just an excuse to impose sanctions on Russia. You're listening to the Newsroom. It's 18:23 GMT. Now, it's been a busy day in the English Premier League. Sports World's Hugh Ferris is with me now. We'll get on to some of the reaction in a moment, but the leaders are playing right now.
Yes, Danny, that's right. Hello again.
Robin Lane Fox, author of the book Alexander the Great and fellow of New College, Oxford. We're back with another edition of the Newsroom at 18 hours GMT.
The BBC World Service.
Witness tells the story.
Jeremy Bowen joins me now live. Jeremy, how prominent are senior government figures at the moment on TV and in person, particularly President Assad?
Not particularly prominent, President Assad.
And just picking up on that, for the ordinary people in Damascus, how much can they feel it? How close does the conflict feel to them on the streets every day?
Everyone feels the effect of the conflict, whether it's...
Let's hear from one of the Jordanian journalists working with Sa'ar Saria. Sarah Dabak is with me now. What kind of stories are you working on? What kind of stories are you hearing?
Well, we have a lot of problems here.
And what's the mood like in Jordan for those refugees at the moment? Because the influx has put a great strain on the people of Jordan here. Is that making life tougher for the refugees?
Well, actually, and honestly, as a Palestinian refugee myself.
We can speak live now to Danny Cox, who is hosting Outside Source Radio. Danny, tell us what you heard from the people there.
Roz, it's been a fascinating day based here at the Farah Anas radio station, as you said. From here, they produce a programme called Sa'ar Saria. It's a 1-hour programme. It goes out 3 times a week, and it provides all the information needed for the refugees here in Jordan. We'll be live at the EU summit in a moment to find out what's been said about relations with Russia. But first, let's hear more about what President Putin had to say at his annual news conference earlier in the day. Our Moscow correspondent Sarah Rainsford was there. Tom Esselmond reporting from Washington, and apologies we were unable to return to Cairo as planned in the programme. Now we're back with another edition of the Newsroom at 23 hours GMT here on the BBC World Service.
The BBC World Service.
There's a podcast from the BBC that lets you take world leaders for coffee, top scientists to the gym.
That was memorable.